It's been almost 3 decades since I found myself living in Paraguay in South America. Lived there for 2 years, and it was really my first experience being outside of the United States, where I grew up and lived. The interesting thing about travel is there's so much to see and experience like we've experienced here in Macau. New foods, new customs, new sights that you haven't seen before. Sometimes it's an assault to the senses. What I found, though, over time is you don't really know a place unless you really know someone who lives there. And I remember being invited into the home of Ignacio, who was very generous, very smart, articulate, hardworking Paraguayo, who invited me to visit with him in his home. And his home was very different than the apartment I lived in Paraguay, different than the home that I lived in the United States. It was a single-room home. The furniture consisted of 1 bed and 2 chairs, and he and his wife and 4 children lived there. And I remember distinctly sitting. Ignacio offered me one of the chairs, and he sat on the bed. And I remember having such rich conversation with him, where he shared with me his love for his children. He had 2 really young daughters. He shared with me his hard work to try to make sure that they had, food to eat every day. He shared with me how he used his former boxing experience to make sure in the neighborhood nothing really bad happened. He was the ex-boxer that nobody wanted to mess with. And we talked about philosophy and religion and family. And it wasn't just one time I was invited into Ignacio's home. There were several times. And I felt like I knew Paraguay by knowing Ignacio. And what's changed for me since then is I don't look at 1-bedroom homes the same way I may have looked at them before. It was just Ignacio's home. It was my friend's home. And so ever since then, I can vividly remember the rich conversations we had together, and it just felt like I had a friend, somebody that wanted to talk to me and I wanted to talk to him. And so that is what I wanted to talk about today, how we can transcend agenda, transcend transaction, transcend our own thoughts and our own feelings, and just be with somebody. And what that does, what that unleashes in our own lives and in the world. So wanted to talk to you today about the power of connection. If we could have the slides come up. So how many times have you found yourself in a conversation that goes something like this? How are you? Good. What's up? Nothing. ¿Qué pasa? Nada. Good. How are you doing? Good. When we have these conversations, it's a natural greeting. What's interesting is that those words just stay out here in the air between us. You notice that? What's up? How's it hanging? What's going on? Hey, and it stops there at this greeting, and there's not the real inquiry, like if you ask that as a greeting and somebody starts telling you how it really is, you're like, whoa, I didn't want to go that far, really. So, to really have power unleashed, we need to get beyond how are you and good to who are you, really? And that's a different question. It's about real, authentic curiosity. It's about really wanting to know. It's about really listening. It's a different question. And that question goes way beyond the words out here in front of us to this connection from heart to heart. You know, it's like this vibration. You've been seeing it all week and experiencing it. When somebody doesn't just ask you, how are ya? They want to know who you are, really. And that's real connection. It's not fake connection, right? That's not... So much of networking in the world of conferences and business is about me looking for the most profitable contact in the room. Who has the most authority, the most money, the most connections, and that's the person I'm going to talk to, right? I mean, that's just how the world works. But that's different than real connection. Real connection doesn't inquire based on what you can do for me. It's really wanting to know who you are, really. It's generous. It's not selfish. It's something that it's not based on my return on investment. I'm not calculating in my head, will this person fund my program or not? Right? One of the things about the World Forum is it fosters real connection. That's what it's all about. It's not about hierarchy. It's not about authority. It's not about transaction. It's about real connection that's authentic, that's curious, that's genuine. And it disregards what your job title is. It even disregards where you live. And there's power in that. It unleashes power. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that power. So, when you have real connection, that powers innovation. Okay? When you can get to that level of not caring what you can do for me, but really being curious about what you're doing, what's working, where the challenges are, in a real authentic way, what happens is what happened with our Global Leaders Europe group from the 2016-2000 cohort. Dritten, that's your picture right there. That's you. This was in Ghent, Belgium. We had a meeting there. Dritten, Sonila, Bozidar, Brigitte, Lisa, and Sinisha really demonstrated what happens when you form a real connection. Amazing things happen. Innovation happens. The advocacy projects, our work, what we take back. Innovation happens. And that's one of the things the World Forum does when we create space for real connection. When we're really asking, who are you really? Innovation happens. Another amazing thing that happens with real connection, it powers intersection. There's this amazing thing that happens when you don't have an agenda, when you're not in it to get something from somebody. There's new possibilities because you're open to what is there versus what your own agenda is projecting on the conversation or your relationship. For example, there's a couple people I know named my friends Roger and Bonnie, who years ago, several years ago, I remember having, just one-on-one connections. I remember sitting on a bus with Bonnie in Boston, talking about my desire to do more for the Global Leaders Program after I'd graduated, and coming up with an idea, just on a bus ride, about supporting some new mentoring initiative. And that took me to Dubai and Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates with Roger, with one of our global leader meetings there. I remember hanging out with Roger underneath the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. And we're both tall, gangly people, but just gazing up at it. And it's those real connections that led me to be here today. It changed the course of some things, some opportunities, just through real connection. One of the other things that real connection does is it powers inspiration. It's one of the things the World Forum taps into powerfully. And it's real connection without an agenda, in a spirit of generosity that changes the world, that impacts us, that changes us in a real way. Let me give you an example of a real connection that continues to inspire me. So, this is my daughter Grace. She's in the pink there, and her friend Rose. So, Grace and Rose met at a Best Buddies activity in their school. And they really liked each other. And here is this senior in her high school, befriending somebody that was a couple years younger than her for no other agenda than just being genuine and enjoying being together. Grace has since moved 2,000 miles away from Rose, and Rose is now attending college. Grace is still in a school. They're 2,000 miles away, and they're still talking to each other. They'll FaceTime each other. Rose just sent a letter to Grace. She was on vacation and wanted to send her a letter. And they're still talking. And where's the agenda there? Where's the transaction? It's a real opportunity to just see what happens when we connect without some reason behind it, but just to genuinely care. So, when I think of how we want to be, not only in this forum this week, but how we want to be tomorrow in the airport with the security personnel, just making it real, right? Or how we want to be when we go back to our workplaces and the people that weren't having the warm, fuzzy experiences we were this week are laying all the stuff on the desk, or that email that we open where we just feel it in our gut like, oh, I've got to respond to this. The more we can step out of the grind and in who we are with each other, not just here, but out there and everywhere, and to really ask that question, who are you really? That's what powers inspiration and intersection and innovation in our work. And it's what the World Forum's all about. And I'm so grateful to have people this week who have asked me, who are you? Who are you? But who are you really? And that's what I've felt this week and what I take back to all the craziness in the airport and beyond in my life. So thank you, everybody.